Hello, and welcome to another Soul Wisdom podcast. I'm Regina Curtis from E13. I'm a soul wisdom mentor, an intuitive artist, and an art channel. And I have Riya Wang here as my guide today. We're going to, my guide. Yes, my guide and my guest. We are going to have an exploration of soul wisdom today. My definition of soul wisdom is our intuitive ways of knowing and being or receiving information and expressing ourselves. So, Riya, tell us a little bit about yourself. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Regina. Hi, everyone. Thank you. Good morning. I think it's good afternoon in the East, right?
It could be good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world.
Yes, that is how wonderful it is. We connect with the world with no time, no location, all connected. So we come back again. Yes, I'm Riya Wang, is a certified Chalpa-Dipa's well-being life coach. And also I teaching a lot of transformation healing. The reason I've been doing this is all started with my own self-healing, with self-love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Self-healing and self-love is a beautiful place to begin that journey. And I think one that everyone who I've talked to that is on this journey of, being a mentor, being a healer, being a coach, really has started in that place. I think it's almost, it's necessary. So Riya, tell me a little bit about your soul wisdom. How do you know? What are your ways of knowing?
That's a good question, I think. So soul wisdom. I think we all have the soul with us. We just discussed a little few minutes ago how the intuition it is. Sometimes you can call this that your soul or spirit or your intuition, or even you can call that your gut feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So I think everyone experienced what is the gut feelings. Just I would say, just be more patient, be more awareness about what is your gut feeling, what is your intuition, even maybe your soul speak to you. Sometimes they can mix together. Don't know what which part, but no matter what it is, for me, I always say people when I was traveling, in the mountains, stay in the monastery with the monks in Tibet, and I have people connect me with social media. Was ask me, so are you enlightenment in there? So what is enlightenment means? I said it's not enlightenment. I'm there here. It's just when I was tuning in with myself, tuning in that I also will be feel I tuning in with cosmos energy. So that inner peace that come into, I think sometimes I hear that words, hear that how to say, hear that intuition that give me into my daily life. How do I thinking? How do I decide the things? That I call is my soul wisdom.
Yeah.
Is that to answer your question?
It does. Yeah. I mean, it's not an easy question to answer, right? So what I heard you say is it's a combination of gut feeling, of that intuitive knowing, and one of the words that you use that I think is a fascinating, the little clip that you gave about people asking you, is that enlightenment? I think that's a really beautiful example, right? Or exploration, not really an example, but it's a beautiful exploration because often when we go through a spiritual practice of some sort. So for instance, I trained in Reiki, and when you go through, Reiki training, you'll hear about the person who is known as like the father of Reiki, right? Usui. And when you learn about that, you learn, oh, he went up onto this mountain and he meditated for this amount of time and then had this download or became enlightened, right? And I think of enlightenment a little bit in the same way as I think of spiritual awakening, where we have multiple spiritual awakenings. Every day we can have a spiritual awakening, right? Like every day we wake up further, we wake up again into our being. And for me, I see that as enlightenment as well. But I'd love to hear your perspective on that also.
Oh, that's great. And you always ask great questions.
Thank you.
Yes, for me, I will think a spiritual awakening. Everybody have different definition of that. Explain that, but for my own experience, I was always tell my clients or my students is that reason you deeply confident God to be who you are. So, like
Mhm.
example, in my whole life, I never learn how to do the painting, didn't go to the paint class, never
Right.
done the music class. But now I can able just paint. You can see the painting behind my wall. I don't know to
Yes, I love that you're painting.
so
That
that is
makes
a
me
big
happy.
universe look at us. So the painting, I can just be free to paint what connect to me, and I
Mhm.
can just be free. Even I can be free to write my own song to sing. I don't care about the more. Do I really professional? Do I make it wrong? It's just that moment make me excited, make me feel so light up.
Mhm.
So then to be have the how to say to be the bold to doing what you want to do, and in the same time to appreciate who you truly are.
Mhm.
So in the same time you bring a lot of love gratitude with yourself that you can share with other people around you. So that for me is the enlightenment spiritual awakening.
I love that. So one of some of the words that you use that really like just like landed right here were that deep confidence to be yourself, right? And that like I love that so much because it is basically the explanation of the work that I do and why I do it. It is when you when you really can understand and be confidently in and communicating through your way, right? Your ways of knowing, your ways of being, the ways that truly are who you are, then you are confident to do that. And that brings you joy, right? And that being the definition of enlightenment is a beautiful thing, right? It's not something outside of yourself, it's very much something inside of you. It is, in fact, who you are, right? That's deep. That's great.
Yes, because we are naturally, I'm not saying naturally, because I only can speak my own experience.
Mhm.
Even I have a lot of clients, students, they have experience shared with me from they trust that I feel so honored. But from I always share what is from my own experience. That's because I speak a truth, what
Yes.
I've been experienced.
Yeah.
So really that I we want to say we all want to changing the world, changing things to be better. But if we can stop small, changing ourselves first. When
Oh,
I'm changing ourselves, I will be changing the things, people around me. Then start getting expanding that energy. That
mhm.
will be changing the world, everybody around themselves. So
Yeah.
that's a big change. Start with ourselves.
And that's not small. Like, that's not small at all, right? Starting small with being yourself. I think that, yeah, it feels small, maybe, or may feel insignificant when we think of our entire world, our entire collective, the way we are in society with each other, in relationship, in business, etc. But when we are changing ourselves, right? And not changing ourselves because we feel we're bad or unworthy or not enough or too much or whatever else bullshit we've been taught to believe. When we start with changing ourselves to align more authentically with our truth, that is amazingly powerful. And that then ripples out, right? Because when we show up in our relationships, in business, in whatever way, right, in our communities, in all the ways that we interact with each other from that place, then we are allowing ourselves to shine our light, give our gifts, and receive in a place of compassion rather than to keep reenacting something that isn't true.
I just love you. I love talk to you because every time I feel you explain the things I want to say, getting
Oh,
more
thank you.
deeper, getting more deeper, then more clear. Yes, I think I shouldn't change the words. It's not use the change. Maybe use elevation, elevate ourselves each
Yes.
day, then be more aware the things around us. That
Mm.
awareness bring and keep grow and bring better than better, right?
Yes, yes. Elevate. That's a beautiful word. Often we hear like evolve, right? Or move forward. And I love that concept of elevating, right? Like bringing it up, bringing it even higher, because when we, especially in a society where we often have this pressure to like keep moving forward, even when we're dragging everything behind us, right? It's like when we can just kind of step up, like raise our vibration, raise our energy, and be in that place, then we have a different viewpoint, right? We were just talking about traveling to the mountains, right? And whether those are mountains in Santa Cruz or South Africa or wherever, Tibet, right? Wherever they are, going up into the mountains, you have this different perspective on life, on what you're looking at, and you get to see more of it at once, right? And from that place, sometimes we need to go down deep, right? Sometimes we need to go in deep. Sometimes we need to go up high and we need to look at the landscape from a different view. And when we allow ourselves to do both of those things, then we have this ability to change our perspective, right? And that's extremely powerful, because then we get to choose, how am I going to look at this? How do I need to look at this, and asking within, right?
Yes, absolutely. I want to say we are all the creature from the universe, but the nature, mountains, the woods, the ocean, all of the nature. I think that the source is the nutrition to feed our soul. Sometimes I get cut off with myself criticizing. No matter how much we are practice enlightenment, practice always but we still the human being make mistake, then still sometimes get cut off with the self criticizing. I was criticizing myself yesterday even.
Yeah.
I was,
I do it too, right? Like we are human. That's what makes us human.
yeah, sometimes but it's big different. I think when we criticize ourselves, we can quickly aware the cut off that, then to come out with that, then how to come out with that situation. Meditation is number one tools. Then also going to the nature. I
Yeah.
remember when I was so stressed many years ago, I was have this huge anxiety. I'm just went to the Grand Canyon. I was
Mm.
standing in the canyon that day. I was walk like 7 hours in the canyon on top,
Yeah.
go down, but on top. But when I see the canyon, when I look at the mountain, look at the place, I was have that aha moment. Wow, this is amazing! How huge the nature! How amazing this is created! Then what I'm stressful about it is little things. So why at that moment just have a big shift.
Yeah. And
So
that's that perspective, right? Like you got that bigger perspective. And when you did that, it put the thing that you were having anxiety about into a different perspective, right? Because you were looking at that thing now, not as it like directly in front of you, right? I could put this candle in front of me and like this is all I could see. But if I look at it from a ways away, suddenly it's like, oh, this isn't really that big. It's just this thing I can hold in my hand, right? So getting that perspective helped you to see it from a different place. And that's not to say it doesn't have significance, but in a grander scheme, it feels more manageable, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Sometimes we are in this society, living in the American. Sometimes then when you get cut off with that the limitation with that look, just now you will get the stress, anxiety. That's why I love traveling. We just discussed a little before. So when
Yeah.
I was traveling, I remember in Cambodia when I was traveling that little river. Sorry, excuse me, go
Okay.
through that river. I see the dirt and people living on the side of the river. It's so, even they drink the water so dirty that all of the, so I was teared off, feel so much gratitude and feel so much compassion. I think
Mhm.
that vibration rising up in the heart, that when
Mhm.
I come back, I will be have more different, like you said, different view,
Yeah,
different things to look at my stress, look at what I'm doing. So have more clear vision, really bring more gratitude to my life.
definitely. I mean, traveling has changed me. Every time I travel, it changes me. And I am so grateful for that because every single time, even when it's difficult, I've definitely gone places that have pushed me right outside of my comfort zone. Excuse me. It's like bubbling up in me. So it pushed me like right outside of my comfort zone and made me uncomfortable in those moments, but also has helped me to grow and helped me to learn compassion for myself and for others in a different way, and to, I don't know, just to have more trust in myself even too, right? Like I know being certain places at certain times in my life where I have had to really trust in my intuition or really trust in my ability to navigate a situation with none of the tools that I normally have, right? Maybe the language is not one I speak, or maybe I don't, like places where I've traveled where the money is so vastly different than like having to do math. Like I remember in high school, I went to Russia and the currency there was rubles, and it was like 6,500 rubles to the US dollar, I think, at the time, which is not an easy math transaction to do in your head when you're standing there trying to pay for your lunch or your dinner or whatever, and it's like, okay, how do I calculate what this actually is? um, and there were no cell phones at that time to be able to like whip it out and do a calculator. I had to just like think it through or trust that I wasn't, spending inordinate amounts of money on something that I wasn't supposed to be, really. You know what I mean?
Mhm, mhm. So yes, definitely. When you travel on the road, it's always have a different things come out. It's
Mhm.
not you. It's not everything in the planet. In the
No,
planet,
even when you plan quite a lot in advance, like I'm definitely a
exactly.
planner, and yeah, you can't plan for everything.
Exactly. It's like once I was traveling in the small village in the India. So I was have planning go to my next trip. Then my money get stolen. That money, because in the small village in the India, sometimes you cannot use credit card. That's why I carry some cash to
Mhm.
travel, prepare for my next month, because I traveling for 3 4 months. That
Yeah.
and but when the money get stolen, I was first moment was thinking, oh my gosh, you're freaking out. It's how I can continue travel with that month. Then next moment I was tell myself, calm down. And that day I remember really clear was the full moon day. Then I started
Mhm.
meditating. So when I started meditating, really I connected with, then I was send the thoughts. First thought is, okay, forgive myself because I was judging myself. So why you don't care for, why you get so
Right.
that
Yeah.
number one things come out, right? So
Yes.
then forgive myself, don't judge myself since will be happened, this happened. So then second thoughts I will be send out my forgiveness to the people who stole my money. Maybe she or he used the money for the good part for the family, for something. So remove that to give the forgiveness, make my heart, make my body not tense up.
Yeah, not in that place of that fight or flight, right? Like not in that state of panic, but knowing I'm okay, I forgive me, right? There may be some reason that this was needed. Maybe they need it more than I do. I think that all the time of maybe this happened because they needed something more than me, or I'm helping someone in some way that I wouldn't necessarily have had the capacity to do without this happening, you
The
know?
forgiveness is really important. Of course, not mean we have to engage people to stealing things, but when things already happened, at that moment, I was
Right.
forgive them, make me feel better.
Yes. Yes, because it's not going to help you, right? You can't change
Yes.
it. So you can be mad about it or you can just allow it to be. Yeah.
It's really interesting the shift that I wanted to share with everyone here.
Yeah, please.
Doing all of that forgiveness, give that the forgiveness, then reaching the love. Then I started tell my family, tell my friends. Then amazing things happen. I got more money. I received more money than what I be stolen.
Right. Yeah, because
Because people
they
are
gave it to you.
my story, and people say, "Oh my gosh, you are Indian. There is no thing. Do you need the money? Let me send you some money. Let me." So my daughter, number one thing, I was really I want to not say test my daughter. I was thinking, if I tell my daughter this story, what she will be said? Did she will say, "Mom, why don't you careful? Why didn't she say that?" Or will be she said something? So I called her. So then she's first thing she said, "Oh, Mom, are you okay? Do you need the money? I send it to you tomorrow."
Mhm.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's just falling the love in my heart.
Yeah, you feel that.
She is. Then I got a bunch of friends care like her. So that end, I receive more money than was be stolen.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to share is when we're in the bad situation sometimes, so we shift the different views to look to raising our vibration, that will be shift the situation, be surprised.
Yeah, definitely. And it's so amazing to me in the moments when I really have had the awareness of that, right? Where I have really been present with, I would call it the energy of abundance, right?
Mhm.
And by releasing the judgment both internally and externally, you were able to connect with the energy of love, the energy of abundance, right? And when you have that moment where you really are connected with that, then you are allowing, you're opening up to receive love and abundance. And I've had multiple times in my life where I've had moments, some more significant and, memorable, such as the one you just described, and some that probably in the long run won't be very memorable. But for instance, the other day I had a moment, and I think it's just as important to recognize these moments when they are insignificant, um, because they're not insignificant, they're just small, right? And that's a big difference between, it's not about the value of something can be huge, even if it is just seemingly small, right, in a grand scheme of things. So I had a moment the other day where I'll try to make this a very short story, but basically I spent money on something because I didn't think of doing the thing beforehand. Like I didn't speak up early enough to allow for allow for things to unfold in a way that would have been easier and would have been less expensive, right? So here I am in the moment where I had to make a decision to say, okay, am I going to spend this money to do this thing that I feel is the right move? Or am I going to stay in the place of judgment and be mad at myself for not having done something beforehand that would have prevented this, right? So I had two different ways of getting to the same outcome. Either way, I could judge myself about it or I could not judge myself about it. And I wanted to get to this particular point. So I said, fine, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to spend the money. It ended up being $95.95, right? So almost $100. But interesting, when the total came in and it was $95.95, I was like, oh, that's an interesting number because 9 is an ending and 5 is a change, right? And so those two numbers in repetition was kind of like, okay, so the ending, I'm ending this thought with it, this judgment, this self-judgment, and a change is happening. I'm moving into a new space. Almost immediately after I hit pay for that, within less than an hour, payment for something that someone had bought in my Etsy store dropped into my account, and it was $98.
Wow.
So it was like, this went out. I released the judgment. I sent it out. I knew it was the right thing to do. It was the right move for me to do. Immediately, it returns to me and is greater, right? And so, yeah, it wasn't like I the numbers are not as important as the fact that this happened, right? It's a reflection of this. And when it did, I noted it. I gave gratitude to it. And I recognized, like, okay, when this happens, I release, I give, I receive.
I love the stories. I love the story. So that's what we talk about. A manifest of soul wisdom. This
Yeah.
is soul wisdom. Is when you're aware, you manifest the abundance. People
Yeah.
always ask me, when you say manifest the abundance, I'm so stressed with this. So like your situation, my situation, you can cut off in the stress, then complaining or self-criticizing yourself, then judging other people all the time in that situation, keep that for a while, or you can quickly come out to manifest different energy, so then bring more abundance come back. So that's giving and receiving, loving and manifesting. I think that is the soul wisdom.
Thank you. Yes, I agree. And, I think a lot of times we talk so much about on this podcast, but also just in general, I think we have a lot of language for ways of knowing, right? We've got words like empath and intuitive and psychic, and there's a lot of ways of knowing, but that's only a part of who we are, right? We also have ways of being. And that example that you gave about how you came into this challenge, or the example that I just gave, right? You face a challenge, and then it's how you act in that challenge. That's a way of being. And there are words that we have for that. There is a vocabulary for that, but it is also much more subtle and more tied into just kind of our way of understanding life, right? But ways of being. So in that instance, either of those instances, the way of being was to get grounded, get centered, get connected, right? To be in your body, to be present, and to be receptive to whatever guidance came through. So that was you acting through the guidance of your soul wisdom, right? So when you receive and then you act.
Absolutely. I want to add one more word on that. That's
Yes,
one. Also, when something happen unexpected, that moment maybe we get a stress, we get a self-criticism. It's just take a moment to accept the things is already happened, not stuck in ask why it's happened. It's accept what is happened, then move out from that what
Yeah,
is.
absolutely. And the why will show up if it needs to, right?
Yes.
There was recently a situation that I had where it was it was a crazy situation, but something happened. It changed basically the trajectory of like 2 weeks of my life. And there were definitely moments in that time where I was like, why is this happening? And I had to keep coming back to being present with it, accepting that that is exactly what was happening. And there still are moments where I look back at it, but now I'm looking back at it as a learner, as an observer, right? And I am curious, what is the why? What can I learn from this? But it's a different why than it was in the moment, where I had to, if I were to get stuck in the why in that moment, I wouldn't have been able to keep going, right? Now I can look back at it and go, okay, I got through that. I accepted it. I moved through it. And what can I learn from this now? So that's where the why comes in. And maybe, honestly, I feel like it's a situation that I'll continue to learn from for years and years, probably my whole life. And those insights will come in, but it's not necessarily actively seeking them in every moment, because then that becomes an obsession, right? And you get stuck, you get hooked into that, and you get into a loop with it. But if you can just open yourself up to receive the insights when they are aligned and when they are meant to come in for your greatest purpose, right? Then when it does happen, you can go, okay, I see that. Thank you. Right. And keep going. And it's not this thing that's just like you're spinning.
Absolutely. I think you are make me remember I'm the big fan with always ask why. So why? So that is what I mean. So the why is, I think, like your brand is when things happen at that moment, you're not, because you're not cut off with that emotions to deep in go to that emotion cannot come out when your body started the fight fly that moment. But in the life, it's always good to ask a big why. What is the reason? When you ask the why, it's important. Is you can separate with the why, so you can locate the why instead of you into the why.
Yeah.
I remember I when I was younger, I always tell myself why things happened to me when I was born. Parents sold me, why I become this, why the God is not fair to me. So when you have that emotion, hold that into that why, so you will be feel you like a life hopeless. You
Yeah.
don't have the reason. You don't see the lights.
Yeah.
You, because you're so cut off into that deep, like you said, you see the cup, you
It's like
just
right here. Yeah, exactly.
see what is around that. That's why it becomes the mountains and blind hold you back. But now look through all of my life going through, I understand I'm not ask the why, like why is God not fair anymore? Is that is my journey that give me the challenging, the strength to come to today who I am.
Yes. Yes.
Then when things happen again, when I ask the why, I will be step out on the back to look at what has happened, be more observe instead of in there. So
Yes.
that can have better clear vision of
Yeah. I
why.
love that. The image of the Grand Canyon comes back again too. And it's true, right? Like when something's right in front of you, when that is what basically you're trying to see everything in your life through that thing. And not everything that's in front of us is clear like a window, right? Like some things you can kind of look through it and see, okay, I'm looking through it through the lens of something, but other things are a block, right? Like you can't understand it until you back away from it, and then you can see, oh, okay, this is what this is, right? There's this image that I've seen before about it's like a cartoon that somebody drew, and it shows a person and they're standing in front of a brick wall, and all they can see is the brick wall, and they're like, how am I going to go through this wall? Like, how do I get through this? And then it zooms back and it shows that they're actually standing in front of this wall, but they're standing so close to it that they can't tell it's only this wide, right? So they could easily walk around it. But that's exactly the image of sometimes you have to get that higher perspective, that bigger perspective, right? So standing at the Grand Canyon, and I've been to the Grand Canyon, and it is, I mean, it's vast, right? Like when you're standing up at the top, it's like it goes on forever, and it's so deep. And you look down and you're like, that little river made this huge canyon, you know? And it's like, in those moments, though, if you were to go in and when you get closer to the river, it's much more powerful than it seems from above. From above, it just looks like this tiny line that's going through this big, huge canyon. But in that moment, it may feel like if you're right in it, right? If you're right in the power of the river, it might feel more aggressive, or it might feel more challenging, right, to understand it. But from that different perspective, it has a very different view.
Absolutely. Life can have so many, when you step back a little bit, look more bigger picture, that's completely changing life. You know, when we are living the life day by day, sometimes I will be saying, oh, why I don't have this? I should do this. I should do that. Not satisfied in my life. Like will be saying, I don't have enough money to do this. I should make that. When I was in Tibet in the mountains, living with the people, in local people there, then I look at the way how do they live in their life. So the difference is Tibetan people, some local people, the tradition, they believe the life they are living not just for this life. They believe for next life, next life. That I think that belief gives the how do you say respect or something. Look at it is not just for this moment. So they don't really care about too much how much money I have. They care about how
They're living,
how
right?
they're living. So that's what I want to share with. Like same thing, like you said, some look at the big picture instead of just standing so close in that wall, thinking about that only ways.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, honestly, that's one of the things that I've noticed too when I've traveled. Like you gave the example of Cambodia, and you've given this example of Tibet, where I've been to some places in the world where what I experience in my daily life in the US, like I wouldn't consider myself to be extremely wealthy, or, you know, I'm grateful for what I have, and I'm appreciative of it. And I am not in any way struggling necessarily, but I wouldn't necessarily consider, like, look at my life and go, oh, I have everything, you know, the way that I sometimes compare myself to others. And yet I've gone to places where I remember even when when I traveled to Russia in high school. And at that time, I mean, I did not grow up in a wealthy family. Like we were very much the opposite of that. And but when I went and traveled to this school in Russia, I remember we went to a third grade classroom, maybe even younger, might have been first grade, and they asked us questions. So they were practicing their English. And I remember them asking me, how many rooms do you have in your house? And how many televisions do you have? And when I said that we had, I think it was 2 or 3 televisions, their eyes got this big, and they were like, oh, you're rich. And like their responses were just, I was like, oh, no, we're not rich. And like, they, you know, even my thinking of it was like, oh, well, this was like a hand-me-down from my grandparents, and that one's just like this little black and white TV that we, you know, don't really use. But that perspective, like seeing that perspective, was just, I'll never forget that moment ever. You know, that was many, many years ago at this point. But I just remember feeling like, oh, okay. Like they really think right now that I have something that they value, right? And that shows you how different somebody's experience can be. And I've also traveled to places where I've met the most joyful, loving, welcoming, giving, generous people that I've ever met. And when I look at comparatively material wise, money wise, what I have or had in comparison to them, it wasn't even comparable, right? Like if you were to look at it on paper or financially valued, they had nothing. And yet there they were, like giving to me, welcoming me, just opening their homes, opening their heart. And that too, I mean, that changes you. How can it not?
Absolutely. I think the rich in the heart is
Yeah.
if your heart have a lot of love, gratitude, there is no space for the stress, for the another anxiety come in. That's why we always say raising your energy is really is raising your gratitude and love in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
That bring your connections with your true self, the connections. How do you treat the people around you? That I think also is that's always can come back to that.
Yes. I think it's in everything we do, right? How can it not be? It's just whether or not we're aware of it or not.
Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. I love our conversations so much. They're just filled with so much joy and so much insight. And actually I want to take a moment here to talk about, we have an upcoming workshop that we're going to do together, and we're talking about or we're going to be holding a space for manifestation, actually using the elements, the 5 elements. So could you give us a sneak peek I can't use words today for some reason, and talk about the elements for a moment?
Oh my God, I'm excited for our workshop. Come
Me
on.
too.
We just talk about the manifesting, talk about all of this. We saw wisdom, the little tiny things. I think we know in the world, the way how we living, we speak, we listen, everything around us is the elements. So everything around us is the energy, and we are made with these elements. So in this workshop, we both will be showing up how to see what is your naturally, because we each one born in this world. We have all have these 5 elements, but some elements maybe is more than others. So
Yeah.
that maybe make you last the balance. That affect how to your physical, your mental, your spiritual, the wrong with that. So in these courses, will be lead you to learn find out what exactly you mean elements. Example, like I'm the Vita. So this comes from the 5,000 years Ayurvedic knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
we will be have 3 different dosas in this dosa. We all people have this in this dosa. We have these 5 elements. Then someone have mean elements like me. I said I have a air and the space, and also is peta is the fire. So what does it mean? Just simple say, air is that mean I'm concentrated, have a lot of ideas. So I want to, and also I don't like, that's why I travel so much, because
You don't like to be stuck in one space,
I have a
right?
hard time to sit in the home. I know somebody loves staying in the home. That's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes I wish I can love stay home, but I just love go out. Then also, so that is our energy inside me. If I have balance with that, then I can create my ideas become the good ones to how to say, to process my idea to become the action.
To embody it, right? And
Yeah,
then put it into
embody.
action.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Then if
Yeah.
I lost balance, I will be got anxiety, stress. That is a lot of people who have that same elements with them. They have to
Yes.
aware how to bring other elements more. Then we talk about the space. Space is everything is possible. You can see the night, the sky, how big. But if you have that element with you, you can manifesting everything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
That have the imbalance, imbalance with the balance together. What your balance will be bring manifesting to you. What the imbalance will be just, how to say it, just messed up
Will
you.
challenge you, right? Like what
Yes.
challenges or
So
how will
in
that
this
be?
workshop,
Yeah.
that's what is the main things we want to do. And I'm excited at the part you do with you painting or whatever. I let you say that.
Yeah. So we're going to bring together the elements through looking at, what are the different strengths and what are the different challenges that come with the different elements, and how do you learn how to understand what balance you have. So we'll give you some tools for that. And then we're going to do a guided meditation with some sound healing. So I'll walk us through the meditation. Riya will support with the sound, and that will guide you into really connecting with these elements and the wisdom of these elements. And then from that, we'll actually do a reflection using some creative tools, and you'll get to express that. So it's connecting with it, embodying it, expressing it. And that really is the cycle of manifestation, right? It's finding it, seeing it, connecting with it, bringing it in and expressing it, and starting to build and create it in a physical form. So it's going to be a beautiful workshop. I'm super excited about it. And we're holding it twice. You can actually do both if you're interested. And I think I'm actually going to take this clip here too and send it out as a separate clip so that people can learn about the workshop a little bit more too. So exciting.
Yes. I'm excited. The whole workshop will be bring is just body, mind, soul together. Really, you physical, you can feel that. Then instead just imagination. That's powerful.
Yes, so powerful. Okay, Riya, it has been a pleasure having you here today. Can you tell us where to find you? And I'll put the links in both on Facebook and YouTube and anywhere else I post this as well. But can you tell us where's the best way to find you?
Thank you, Regina. I always feel, every time I talk to you, I feel so excited. You always bring excitement to me, and I'm so blessed and honored to be here talking with you. Yes, so you can find me from my website, Zen Quincy Art of Healing. Also, you can find me from my Instagram, Zen Quincy Art of Healing. So I wanted to say Zen Quincy, explain a little bit the Zen Quincy. You know the frequency. So if you take an F out, put a Zen, Z-E-N, that is Zen frequency. I just take off out, so that is Zen Quincy, Art of Healing. So you can just type, I think that is unique name. You type probably will become out just my website. You can DM me and you can join my Facebook. So also you can come to Regina's courses to find me.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I love that word, Zen Quincy. Beautiful, beautiful word. Okay, everyone, thank you for being here. I saw a couple people pop in live. And if you're watching this at a later date, it's so beautiful to have you here with us. Remember to like, subscribe, comment. If you have any questions, we'll check on the comments. And then like and subscribe so that you can find out when we're going live again. And until next time, we'll see you soon. Bye.